after months of speculation and guessing and name dropping, finally we know who is the new creative designer for Chanel. Hi guys, and welcome to another fashion news video. So I created the background and I dressed accordingly to the topic that we're going to talk about, and that's of course new creative director of Chanel. Now we know for a few weeks now who Chanel has chosen to be their new creative director, but there was not much known about Matthieu Blazy. So I figured I'm gonna wait a while and jump on the first video to tell you about it, but to actually wait to have more information. So this video will be more in depth than let's say somebody who talked about it the first day we learned about him. So the only thing we knew when the announcement came was that Matthieu Blazy is actually a French guy. He was raised in Paris, he was educated in Paris, and we knew that he was creative director for Bottega Veneta. And that was pretty much it. So I have many notes prepared because there's no way I can have all of this in my head. But let's look first at what Chanel was actually looking for, because when we go through this information, we kind of realize that Matthieu Blazy is actually perfect for the job. In one of the interviews after they made the announcement, Chanel fashion president Bruno Pavlovsky said, among other things, that Matthieu became an obvious choice because we came to understand his talent, his personality, his groundedness, and his culture. That kind of tells us that Chanel does not want to go overboard. They don't want somebody, for example, we were talking about John Galliano as it might actually be a perfect fit, but John Galliano is not grounded. He is definitely really out there designer, and while this can work wonders for some brands, obviously not for Chanel, according to Bruno Pavlovsky. And another very insightful revelation in that interview with Bruno Pavlovsky was that Chanel doesn't need a revolution. So whatever Matthieu will be, his first collections will be, it's not going to be a revolution. So we are not expecting anything that it's not obvious Chanel. Obviously he has to put kind of his stamp on it, but it will be classic Chanel, because I'm quoting here, he said they don't need a revolution, kind of like a revolution, but Chanel is nonetheless positioning the hire as a historic, transformative move for the company. We didn't choose Matthieu to just do Chanel. We chose him so he could push the boundaries of what Chanel is for the future. So how do you push boundaries without creating a revolution? My guess is that he's going to play around with certain maybe fabrics, but it's going to be like core Chanel, but they're going to add personal touches by Matthieu's design. That's what I kind of read from this interview, but we will see. I mean, first collection will come in a few months, so we're not going to have a long time to wait. So Matthieu is 40 years old. He's going to be 41 this year. And he was in many different houses. For Bottega Veneta, he was creative director for the last 3 years. If you have been following fashion at least a little bit, you will know that Bottega Veneta was one of the probably like 3 brands, along with Miu Miu and another one, that actually did not suffer in the last year or two financially. So it actually gained followers, it gained new customers, it improved sales, and it was actually doing better than many of other luxury brands. And that's a lot to do with creative designer as well. So that's definitely a good head start by Matthieu Blazy, doing so well at Bottega Veneta and then now jumping ship to Chanel. But he was at many houses before he came to Bottega Veneta. He worked for Maison Margiela. He was working at Celine under Phoebe Philo before she go and created her own brand. And then he was also at Calvin Klein before he joined Bottega Veneta in 2020, initially as ready-to-wear director under Daniel Lee. and then he became creative director in November 2021. And he was best known for runway collections that put cutting-edge craft in the spotlight. That's the quote. And also kind of like a mix of references to art, design, and cinema. And that's definitely something that I can see Chanel into as well, into this kind of description in a loose kind of way. So again, we see the connection now that we know who he is, why Chanel chose him. One of the Blazy's signature was also printed leather. Now, this is something we don't see a lot in Chanel. So I'm curious how he will incorporate in ready-to-wear, not in bags, but in ready-to-wear, like printed leather. What he will do with this for Chanel. That would definitely be an interesting thing to see, if it will happen, that is. So what does actually being Chanel creative director entails? Now, one of the main reasons why you have a creative director is to oversee runway shows. And Chanel has 6 runway shows per year, from ready-to-wear to couture. And of course, they also have red carpet projects. You will see many stars on different red carpets wearing Chanel. And that's also kind of supervised by Chanel's creative director, or any brand that does that, obviously. They also do ski and sand special shows, special capsule collections, and all of the collections are one of a kind. Apart from classic items like handbags, ready to wear is just one of a kind. Once it's sold out, you cannot really get it anymore. One of the things that Chanel, or what Bruno Pavlovsky said, is very aware of, or very trying to achieve with new creative designer, is that it will need to advance the brand's creative message while still serving clients with products that are desired and wearable enough to justify the high price. I mean, he used the word the splurge, but to justify the high price, that's what we're going to say it here. So that's actually quite a big challenge, because in the last year or so, the luxury sector in general really suffered. I mean, the sales really declined. Some of the luxury brands actually lowered their prices to try to aim for sales. But Chanel, as far as I know, didn't lower price on anything. But it's true that their classic went through the roof price-wise, and their current collections, non-classic items, are slightly lower priced than they used to be. So while they didn't officially slice prices, you can get a bag for like 3,000 euros in Chanel. So that definitely is a little bit of shift towards what's happening in luxury sector. I also talked about they're buying new buildings in Paris, and they're still keeping the high price tag of Chanel double flat bag. So I'm guessing they're doing okay. Otherwise, I guess they would be lowering their prices, but so far they are not doing that. We don't really know how much Chanel earns and what its revenue is, because it's a privately owned company, so the numbers are not publicly available. But we do know a little bits and pieces that Bruno Pavlovsky, in his interview, one of the things he said, that Chanel did have a difficult year, but its sales are just a bit, not a lot, just a bit less good in 2024 than they were in 2023. Now, what's just a bit? That's open to interpretation. Keeping in mind that there's a lot of money going through fashion, so we're not talking about thousands. We're talking about much bigger numbers than this, but we don't know. Whatever we talk about number-wise, we are guessing. But one of the things that Pavlovsky emphasized, and I actually do agree with him, that a lot of clients are still extremely passionate about the brand, and that was obvious in the travel show that they had in China a few weeks ago. And it was obvious that we still love Chanel, that we still have passion for it. But if we are buying enough, well, that's, I guess, question for another video. But for now, Pavlovsky is saying that they are satisfied. So, to be honest, I'm not sure that he would admit if they are not happy, but, we can talk about only what he admits and says in interviews. Travel shows are one of the things when you can actually get up close with certain collections, with certain items. You can learn more about how they are made. And one of the reasons why they do that, apart from trying to sell us their new collection or newer collections, is to still maintain that passion. Because when we learn more about how items are actually made, what's behind it, the history, the craftsmanship, that's why we cherish the brand. That's why we continue to love it. And that's one of the things Pavlovsky said in the interview as well. When clients get to see and learn about products up close, as during events like Chanel's travel shows, that sublimates the collection. It just multiplies clients' interests. And another interesting thing that he said was that if business has been more difficult lately, that's a good wake-up call for everyone. We have to keep creating something real. I'm not sure the problem is what they create. I think the main problem is the huge gap between the price and the quality of the item. I think if you try to kind of come closer on these two items, so either lower the price or improve the quality, you should be golden. This is what luxury is. You buy something expensive that is amazing quality. That bottom line, that's just what luxury is. So Blazy is only Chanel's third creative designer after the original Coco Chanel. We had Karl Lagerfeld for many, many years, and then Virginie Viard, who only stayed for a few years and then left abruptly last June. Officially, we still do not know what happened. There's a lot of gossip flying around. There's a lot of speculation what happened, from like that's something she said, from something that Chanel try to enforce her to do. But the bottom line is we do not know. We just know that something definitely happened, because nobody leaves that kind of job overnight if there is not something behind it. I guess, maybe in time we'll learn, I will see. But for now, whatever we talk about why Virginie Viard left, we do not have facts or really proven information why she actually left. While Karl Lagerfeld was one of the main vehicles behind Chanel becoming what it is today, it's definitely a teamwork. And one of the things that many people from Chanel, including Bruno Pavlovsky, keep saying, that it is about teamwork. You have a creative director, you have artistic director, whatever you want to call it, but it is a teamwork. So he is just kind of like a navigator, let's say. But everything we see that Chanel produces is actually a teamwork, and that's very important for Chanel, that it stays team, that it's not just one person driven brand like in so many other cases, that in Chanel is always about team and about more people putting their input into beautifully designed and hopefully soon better quality items. So what do we actually know about Chanel's numbers? Now, Chanel revenues have surged in recent years. That was for many luxury brands during and after the pandemic, the few years, because people were obviously buying more. And then it kind of slowed down during 2023. But the company reported revenues of almost $20 billion in 2023. And that's actually up more than 75% over 5 years. Now, one of the reasons apart from pandemic is also the price surges, because if you remember, during 2020 and 2021, I feel like Chanel was rising prices every month. Usually it happens once a year, around November, December. Chanel would kind of raise prices on their classic for like 10% usually. But during that year, it was insane. Every other month you would hear, okay, 10%, we're going to raise it here, 20 there, 15 there. It was insane. So the classic flap back went from like 5,000 to 10,000 within a year. It's just crazy what they did with prices. Bruno Pavlovsky said that in 2024, the revenue was just slightly less than 2023, and in 2023, it was 19.7 billion. According to some articles, the revenue of Chanel in 2024 was 14 billion, which is still a very good number, but it's not 19.7, which was the revenue in 2023, so it was definitely less. As of now, Chanel is still the world's second largest luxury brand behind Louis Vuitton. So what did Blazy actually said to the press in a press statement when his joining Chanel became public news? He really did not say much. He said, "I'm thrilled and honored to join the wonderful house of Chanel. I look forward to meeting all the teams and writing this new chapter together." Well, I mean, he is not in the house yet, so I understand that he doesn't have any more detailed information to tell us, but I would assume landing a job like this, would you have just a few more words? It's a very beige sentence, so I don't know, we will see. His main job will be to oversee 10 collections altogether per year, and his first one will be in September of 2025. That's like the official trajectory, because he's going to join in April. It's funny that we were talking about so many different names, but I don't remember anyone, either in fashion circles or here on YouTube, actually talking about Matthieu Blazy. I think it was because he's still young, and he did great with Bottega Veneta, so why would he want to leave something that's already a great job? But on the other hand is Chanel. I don't think there's a designer out there who would turn down a job to be creative director at Chanel, at least for a few years, if not for the long run. All right, so what do you think? Can you see Matthieu Blazy thinking about what he does, what he did at Bottega Veneta in Chanel? Keep it in mind that, you know, Bruno Pavlovsky specified that they are not looking for revolution, but they are looking for a little twist for, you know, well-known Chanel designs and visuals and creations. So I'm really looking forward to his first collection, so we're gonna keep our eyes peeled for September show. Have a lovely day, guys, and I will see you in the next video.